Hope Davis just earned an Emmy nomination for her performance on Succession. I'm David Buchanan with Gold Derby. Hope, first and foremost, congratulations on the nomination.
Thank you very much.
How did you hear about the news?
I was on set at a different HBO show called Perry Mason. I was filming my last day of work there, and I picked up my phone, and there were about 25 texts, and I knew that it was. I knew the nominations were coming. I'd been alerted by my agent. So then I saw that it happened. It was such a nice little nice morning way to start the day.
That's wonderful. It's also your third Emmy nomination. You've been nominated twice in the past for other roles. So I just wanted to ask you, how does this one feel different from those first two?
Well, this one was a surprise for me because I think, in this guest category, you pop onto a show for a couple of days and that's what it is. And it was kind of surprising. And obviously it's such a treat to be on that show and to be asked to be on that show that it just felt like a little extra something. But yeah, I felt it was nice.
That's exactly what I wanted to ask you next, which is when they approached you to take on this role, what was it about either the series or your character Sandy in particular that really stood out to you that made you want to say yes to it?
I'm always a little late with my viewing. I'm usually a year behind because there's so much out there. And I had just binged both season one and two. And I'd been talking a lot with my agents. We were in negotiations about something, and they called up and they said, "We have good news and we have bad news. What do you want to hear first?" I was like, "Well, let's start with the good news." And they said, "Do you want to go on and be on Succession?" And I thought they were joking. I was like, "Wait, what? Why? Who asked me? What is this?" Um, it just kind of came like that out of the blue, and I think I would have done whatever it was on that show. And then I read this character, and she was so interesting, and but it was one episode, and I didn't know if there would be anything further. It all Jesse Armstrong kind of keeps it all in his head, he and his team of writers. So I didn't know what it would be going forward, but it was so fun on the page, even the first read through. So of course I was going to say yes.
Something I love about Sandy and the way you portray her is she's so enigmatic. I think she's a great negotiator because she's very hard to read. Um, how would you describe the character? I mean, she's just so. I love that we see a little bit. We learn more and more about her in your appearances. But how would you just describe the character? Kind of on first blush.
That Sandy is someone who's been waiting in the wings maybe her whole life as her father's number two person. She's been a little bit behind the scenes. I mean, the idea was that she knew the family. They'd run into one another at business events and social events, but she'd kind of been waiting for her moment to shine. The idea is that she's a single woman, no kids, work is her life, and that she's been waiting in the wings. She's been watching really carefully, and she is ready to pounce.
Yeah, she seems that way in the very first episode we see her in, and I just love to your introduction is kind of annoyance at Kendall for having to come out in the middle of the night and
Yeah.
deal with his mess. How do you think Sandy feels about both Kendall and Logan and this public feud that's really kind of threatening to torpedo this whole deal that she's gotten herself into?
I think she thinks it's a kind of a game, and she's going to play it, and she's going to see if she can triumph in some way. I don't think she's afraid of them. I think she's really happy to have her moment on the stage, and you know, I will see where she goes, but I think she thinks it's all a tremendous game, which is a
Yeah.
powerful position to be in because she's invested in her own way. But yeah, I think she's hard to read.
Absolutely, and I love that about the character. You submitted the episode "Retired Janitors of Idaho" for Emmy consideration. I just wanted to ask you, it's one of my favorite episodes of the season. What is it about that one that you're particularly proud of, or that you just love about that episode in particular?
Well, I didn't submit that one. I think HBO picks. I mean, I'm only in three of them, and I think all the episodes of Succession are really amazing. So, I don't know if there's anything about that particular one. Which one is that one? Where the scene where with I'm with my father? That one?
It's the shareholder meet. Yeah.
Oh, the shareholder meeting. Yeah, and the line about Logan standing outside the glass. Yeah. I mean, to me, they're all just really delicious, and I think that's the one where I'm in Logan's office with the whole family, kind of telling them what for, which was a
That's the
very
oh,
that's
sorry to interrupt. That's the eighth one. Yours is the shareholder where you're negotiating with the Roy family and Shiv, and that's the
okay.
one.
I should know these numbers. I should have this clear in my head, but I don't. Um, yeah, that was a very fun scene. I mean, it feels for especially for someone who's just binged the entire show, it's very surreal to suddenly be sitting opposite the kids, you know, the kids, and be negotiating with them. It's really it's electrifying. It's really fun to shoot with them. They're a wild, wonderful bunch. And yeah, that's a great scene with my dad in the wheelchair next to me, mumbling.
Totally. I wanted to ask you about that scene and that whole episode in particular. It's really serious. I mean, this is a really high stakes moment for all of the parties, but the episode itself is so hysterical and farcical. I just wanted to ask you about kind of threading that needle as an actor. How do you play it? Does it feel different to kind of play? Are the scenes more heightened? What was it like to work on that one in particular?
Well, that was, I think that's the second scene that I shot with all of those people. So, I mean, I was a bit nervous coming in, and the actors were so generous with me running lines in both of my big family scenes that I shot in that season, and just letting me be comfortable. But the thing about Sandy is she is kind of an outsider, and she's a little bit mysterious, so I kind of kept a little bit to myself. And the great thing about the way they shoot Succession is it's so impeccably written, and then when it comes time to shooting, it's very, very loose. There's usually one or two people with a handheld camera, and you shoot very, very quickly, and they're pulling focus to different people, and so it feels like theater. It feels very much alive in the moment. You're not repeating things 27 times for this angle and that angle. I mean, in some scenes there's more coverage than in others, but so it feels like you're in a play. And for me, it's like being in a play. It feels real. It feels like it's really happening. So when the camera rolls, you just kind of let go, and you're really able to bounce off the other actors and what they're doing. And as we know, they're all really brilliant. So, oh my gosh, here comes the window washer man. I'm 13 stories up. There he goes. Just that's his job. Oh,
Speaking of, I wanted to ask you about one of the many wonderful actors you're alluding to in that scene, which is Sarah Snook, because the two of you have just a wonderful scene together, where you're negotiating and you kind of have a moment of connection, or at least of aligned interest. So I just wanted to ask you, what do you think it is about the two characters that make them kind of click in that way? And what is it like to work with Sarah?
well, they're both the daughters in these power families. And really, I think both of us feels like, well, I should be running the show. Give the corporation to me, and I'm going to make it happen. And I believe that about those two characters, that they could run the thing. Um, Sarah, she's just the character that she's created. It's just endlessly fascinating. You could just watch her eat a breakfast or run a board meeting or fight. It doesn't matter what she's doing. She's just so fascinating to watch. And it's really, really exciting to work with these people because they're just, um, they're so comfortable in what they're doing that it's very loose and you don't know what's going to come next. And it's the polar opposite of someone who's kind of phoning it in. I mean, they're just so alive in the moment. But I think in those scenes, the idea is like, here are these two women who, who knows, maybe they're going to join forces at some point and take over the world.
Yeah, I love too in your later episode, at the your first board meeting, she's looking for Shiv, to kind of give guidance on what's happening with Gojo. I just love that kind of moment of, saying, well, where's Shiv? Because you really want her input on
Yeah,
what's happening. I just love that the
yeah.
characters, continue from that episode. Speaking of that one too, we get to see Sandi's reaction to the news of the Gojo acquisition. I just wanted to pick your brain on, what do you think it is that she's opposed to that? And how do you think, I don't know if you know yet, but how do you think Sandi is going to respond to the news that actually Gojo is acquiring Waystar Royco?
Are they though? Will they? Let's see. I think she is just finally inserted herself into this position of slight power, having a say, and she doesn't want anyone else at the table. And also just thinks it's not a good deal. It's not enough money. It's not the right deal at the right time. And we'll see if she's right or if she's wrong. But I think they gave her a seat at the table, and so she's going to speak loud and clear and tell them what she thinks. That's her job.
You have a great scene in that one opposite Brian Cox too, which you mentioned earlier. Just wanted to ask you, out of all the ensemble, because you've worked with a lot of the characters in your 3 episodes, what are the characters or actors on that show that you would love to spend more time with and maybe spar with as Sandi? Because I feel like there's so much potential for the character down the line to get really in the weeds with these other characters.
I mean, every single one of them. They're just such a deliciously gifted bunch of actors. I would happily have a back alley meeting with any of them. I'd love to see Sandi kind of like take each one aside and try to, just what they've been doing to one another all this time. Make her connection with each one of them. Certainly, Brian is an endlessly fascinating person to talk to, and it's fun talking to Logan Roy. It's just incredibly exciting, fun.
So much fun to watch. You do have that moment with Logan in that episode too. Speaking of kind of father figures, I do want to ask you a bit more about working with Larry Pine as your father. I know he doesn't say much in
Yeah.
those episodes, but just talk about, you mentioned this a little bit earlier, but talk about their kind of relationship. How much thinking did you do around not just their professional relationship, but what's their personal dynamic like? We don't get to see much of how the elder Sandi interacts with his daughter, but what do you think
Yeah.
their personal dynamic was like before he was in ill health?
I mean, my piece of the backstory was that he, kept her at his side all these years and never allowed her to really shine. And that he maybe wasn't, the warmest father. Um, but that she was just biding her time and waiting for her moment, knowing that, like Logan Roy's children, sooner or later he's going to fall apart, and then it's all going to be mine. And so I think it's been a lonely haul for the younger Sandi, and I don't think they've had the closest time. But now he's failing, and now she's going to take over.
That would be extremely exciting to see. I'm sure we will see more of Sandi. It certainly seems that way to the viewer. I don't know if there's anything you can tell us about what's ahead, or if not, just what else would you hope to see for your character? What kind of direction would you like to see Sandi take if and when she returns to Succession?
She does return to Succession. Um, you know, it's Jesse's show, and the brilliant writers that he has with him, Susan Sooney Stanton and Tony Roach, and I leave myself completely in their hands. Of course, I would love to just have more and more to do. Um, I think she's an interesting character. Just, I really am intrigued by her. I think she could be a real power player. Um, I'd like to see her really get in there, but it's up to Jesse.
Hope Davis, congratulations again on the Emmy nomination, and thanks so much for talking to Gold Derby today.
My pleasure. Thanks.